I know self-publishing's not for everyone. Nothing is. But if you've considered self-publishing for even a minute, listen up, because I'm betting I know what's holding you back from exploring it further or getting started. Number one, you think the self-publishing process is a lot harder than it actually is. And number two, you're understandably afraid of doing it, air quote, wrong. So I've created a new free resource for you. It's called the Self-Publishing Starter Kit, and you can get instant access to it by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting publishaprofitablebook.com/self-publishing 101. In this free training, you'll discover the exact 4 steps to focus on and mistakes to avoid so you can publish an incredible book that's indistinguishable in quality from a New York Times bestseller without overthinking, overguessing, or overspending in areas that won't make a difference. Again, visit publishaprofitablebook.com/self-publishing 101 to get instant access. Hello, and welcome to the Write the Damn Book Already podcast. My name is Elizabeth Lyons. I'm an author and book editor, and I help people write and publish thought-provoking, wildly entertaining books without any more overthinking, second-guessing, or overwhelm than absolutely necessary. Because let's face it, some overthinking, second-guessing, and overwhelm is going to come with the territory if you're anything like me. In short, I love books. And I believe that story and shared perspective are 2 of the most impactful ways we connect with one another. A few things I don't believe in: gimmicks, magic bullets, and swoon-worthy results without context. As in, be sure to reveal that a result took 8 years or required a $30,000 investment in ads, because those details are just as important. What I believe in most as an author: the long game is the shortcut. For more book writing and publishing tips and solutions, visit publishaprofitablebook.com or visit me over on Instagram at Elizabeth Lyons Author. Hi, everybody. All right, this week we are going to touch on a topic that is near and dear to every author's heart and also very close to most authors' bane of their existence list, and that is Amazon reviews. How to get them without feeling sleazy, how to keep them from disappearing, because that happens, all these sorts of things. And I decided to crowdsource this one and ask out on Instagram specifically what current published authors' strategy and approach is for getting these, because in this area, like so many others, my voice should absolutely not be the only one. People are like, crowdsource this stuff, people. Get other people's experiences and opinions and insights so that you can make the best decisions for you. That's always been my modus operandi as a business owner, as an author, all of it. And I encourage you to do the same. So that's what I've done here. And I'm going to share with you the responses that I got. There were a lot of them, so I'm going to do my best to get to all of them. But first, I want to address a question that came in via email, actually. I sent an email out earlier in the week about keywords and how to set up your keywords correctly on Amazon in order for your book to have the best discoverability by your ideal readers. And so that Amazon knows exactly where to put your book in their metaphorical bookstore, like the biggest bookstore on the planet. And in response, I got an interesting question from someone, and she asked if I would share my thoughts/opinion on what authors can do related to the boycott of Amazon that many people are pushing based on the new administration. I am never shy about answering questions, even if the answer is, I don't know, I've never heard of that. So let me get back to you. Because I feel like if I can answer a question confidently by saying, I don't know, or saying, that's not my area, let me talk to some people and see what they say and get back to you, then I can be even more confident when I say, okay, that I feel like that is my lane. I've been doing that for a long time. And here's my absolute opinion. And it's not just an opinion, it's my guidance based on all these years of doing it. So I certainly am not the girl who's going to tell you that I know everything about everything, or even a little bit about everything, because that's just not the case. So in this instance, I thought about this question for a few days prior to recording this because I have a thought on it, and I want to be very clear that that thought is really just an opinion. So as with everything else, I would encourage you to ask other people in the publishing space what their opinion or thought or expertise says about this potential hiccup and how authors can come back from it. First of all, I don't yet personally I haven't seen anything about boycotting Amazon related to the current administration. I certainly am well aware that there is a percentage of book buyers who don't want anything to do with Amazon under any circumstances. Not only will they not buy books from Amazon, they won't buy anything from Amazon. And that has been the case for years and years and years, and it's just what it is. And on many levels, I understand it. I'm a huge supporter of bookshop.org. I'm a huge supporter of indie bookstores, even with the upsell in price. Like, I'm more than happy to pay my local indie bookstore an extra $3 to $6 for a book in order to procure it from them. I also will readily admit that sometimes I too don't want to drive into downtown Phoenix, which is about 40 minutes for me, to get to the indie bookstore that may or may not have the book that I want. And I do like the convenience occasionally of having it just delivered to my front porch, along with dog food and potato grow bags, which is what arrived yesterday. So I want to be clear that I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who doesn't see herself boycotting Amazon anytime soon. That being said, I saw both yesterday and today on Facebook a post. It was the same exact post, but it was screenshot and posted by two separate individuals. And it was encouraging the boycott of, I would argue, about 50 different stores or brands, I should say, based on their alleged support of certain political things that are currently going on. And you know what? There are always going to be people, and I support these individuals who feel like, yeah, I'm not going to buy from that company anymore if they're supporting X, Y, and Z. I certainly remember years and years ago, like there was a whole thing for quite some time, and there still is, about boycotting Hobby Lobby because of their religious beliefs, and boycotting Chick-fil-A because of their religious beliefs, and on and like it's never gonna end. And so I encourage people, if you feel strongly about a particular cause and you can find an alternate source or create an alternate source, which many business owners have done, for a particular product in order to take, your business away from someone that you don't want to support financially and give it to someone who you do. I mean, all the live long day do that. I don't personally envision a world anytime soon, and of course, because I just said that, it'll happen in an hour, where people are boycotting anything en masse. And again, I think back to many years ago when people started boycotting certain brands because it became either clear or it was reported that they had inhumane working facilities overseas, and people didn't want to support that. There are, people who don't want to support certain farm industries like the meat packing industry because of the way that the animals are treated. There's always going to be something. So I don't personally, when I look at the data today as an author, it still seems to be true that upwards of 80% of people are still purchasing their books online. And of those, 50% are doing it at Amazon. So we see peaks and valleys in Amazon sales, in book sales, in egg sales, in all the sales of all the things at any point in time for a variety of reasons. But I'm not hitching my own wagon to the notion that Amazon sales are going somewhere and that authors need to have some sort of a preventive strategy or a recovery strategy in order to deal with that. Now, if it happens and it's long standing, meaning more than a couple of weeks, and people are really scrambling to figure out what to do next, we can have a different conversation. There was, for several months, a big brouhaha over well, what are creators specifically in the Book Talk community going to do if and when Book Talk goes offline? And TikTok goes offline. And TikTok went offline for, 14 minutes. And there was a widespread panic because understandably, there are a lot of authors, forget just creators, don't forget them, but irrespective of creators in general, There are a lot of authors who have made an entire career and community for themselves on TikTok, specifically on the book talk segment of TikTok. And I can well understand how that might have been quite scary were TikTok to have stayed gone or go away again. And I think in many cases, those authors are putting together contingency plans. I mean, anybody who talks about email newsletters has been saying ad nauseum, get those email databases growing, because that is the one asset over which you have control, regardless of all these other platforms and whether or not they disappear. So, whatever you can do to make sure that your community, you have a direct outreach option for your community, regardless of what platforms come and go, the better your chances of frankly not feeling at the mercy of all of these different platforms. The debate is ongoing. The debate will continue to be ongoing, and I'm not freaking out. So that's my opinion. That's what I would contribute to it. And you might talk to somebody else who says, "Oh my gosh, I'm totally freaking out. Amazon's going to completely disappear in every aspect, or this is going to happen or that's going to happen." And if that whatever that person is saying resonates with you and you want to take their directive, and then by all means do that. So I think that's so much what this and so many other spaces are about, is that there's always going to be a variety of opinions, which on the one hand can feel extremely overwhelming because you want to not pick the wrong one if you're like me. And you want someone to tell you, do this. And then if you do it and it doesn't work, well, you just blame them. So the fact that it's important that we take personal responsibility for the choices that we're making is often not comfortable for many of us. On the flip side, I think it's great that you can find a lot of opinions and thoughts about any topic, really, because it allows you to open your own mind and decide, okay, what feels good, what feels reasonable, and how do I want to move through this space and time and industry in a way that feels like enjoyable. Because if it doesn't feel enjoyable, we're all just going to quit and go do. I mean, I found a farm yesterday in Hillsboro, Oregon. It's not it is a farm, but it's also an Airbnb, and now everyone's going to book it, and I'm not going to be able to. But they have llamas, and you just get to hang out with the llamas while you're Airbnb in it. I mean, don't be surprised if in a couple of years I am now raising miniature cows, Highland, and goats and llamas. Like, if something becomes uninteresting and unfun for too long, that's what happens. So the goal for me is to help people remember that you can find the approach that doesn't freak you out and compels you to say, okay, what's the solution going to be for this? Like, how, first of all, is this even really happening? Because just because somebody says it's happening doesn't mean it's happening. So where's the data that says that this is happening? And then if it is happening, or if it does happen, even if it happens rather suddenly, what's the plan? Like, how, and trusting yourself that you can come up with something, a different plan, because there's always another plan. There's always, in this day and age, another way to do something. Readers, or wondering what to say in your emails? Your email list is your most valuable asset as an author, and writing emails that engage and entertain your readers should be easy. You just wrote an entire book, for God's sake. From communicating with your launch team to building long-term relationships with readers, my customizable email templates take all the guesswork out of writing emails that turn email subscribers into loyal readers. They also help you help others know exactly what to say to their email lists to effortlessly promote your books to their audiences. Ready to save time and grow your readership? Grab your templates now at publishaprofitablebook.com/book-launch-emails, or through the link in the show notes. Now let's get back to the episode. All right, so getting into Amazon reviews. I talk from manuscript to market, which is touted as my book launching course. And sometimes I think that's not entirely fair, because what it essentially is, like, I mistitled it somehow, which, I mean, it's a story of my life, but It really is about how to give your book the best shot. That's not even fair. It's how to give it a solid shot, right? How to feel confident that you are launching it with intention and thoughtfulness into the world. It doesn't mean that you can screw it up. It's one and done. It's not necessarily the best approach. It's certainly not the best approach for everyone. But for people who are like, my book is coming out and I don't know, I need a process. I need a roadmap. That's what From Manuscript to Market is. For people who launched their book and just hit publish and didn't really know how to, not even how, but just a way to launch it in a strategic manner, it's also for you because you can come back and sort of do what I call a relaunch. There's nothing about the course that makes it a requirement that you undertake these steps within the first X number of days that your book is officially on the market. So for people who are like, I don't know how to create an email list. I want the templates. I want social media templates. I want dates. Like I want you to tell me on day 1, T-5, do this, T-3, do this, day 1, day 2, day 3, all the way up through day 12, which is what the course covers. That's what From Manuscript to Market is. How do I get my website set up properly? What pages do I need? So that you don't feel like you're missing something and have panic about that. Okay, so within that course, I have a big bit on reviews, on Amazon reviews specifically, because there are 2 spots, depending on your genre, where reviews are the most important. One is Amazon and one is Goodreads. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Amazon owns Goodreads. And Goodreads is really a great, or I should say, a better spot for reviews if you are a fiction author. It doesn't mean it doesn't matter if you're nonfiction. I just find that Goodreads is much more utilized by consumers who read fiction than consumers who read nonfiction. And with Goodreads, also, reviews can be left before a book comes out, which is sometimes a pro and sometimes a con. We saw, I think it was last year, but again, time has very little meaning anymore or relevance, but where there was a debut fiction author who created a bunch of false profiles in order to review bomb some of her, I guess you could say, competitors. I'm sorry that she looked at it that way, but some of her colleagues and people who wrote something similar in the space in order to give her book more of a chance of doing well in its first week. And so because you can leave those early reviews, which are often biased, sometimes that doesn't go well for people, but that's a separate topic. So with Goodreads, you can leave reviews before the book is officially available. With Amazon, you cannot. So within that first, I'd say, week or even month of being on Amazon, one of the biggest goals for authors is to start getting those reviews up. Because if you're anything like, think of yourself as a consumer. When you go to Amazon, I just did it this morning. I was looking for a book on a specific topic, didn't have the slightest idea where to start. I actually admittedly used ChatGPT and I said, this is the kind of book I'm looking for. This is what I want it to help me with. Can you give me 10 options? And it did. And I went and I looked at the first one, looks great. The second one only had 4 reviews. And I thought, I don't know, that just didn't sit well with me. So I refined my ChatGPT query to say, can you give me 8 more, make sure they are written by experts and have at least 25 reviews? And then it gave me a whole new bunch. And now I have, 37 books in my cart. But nonetheless, reviews matter. The challenge with review, and they matter for a couple different reasons. Number 1 is what I just told you. Number 2, Amazon uses if you're consistently getting good reviews, like 3 stars or more, that tells Amazon that your book is being enjoyed by the people who are purchasing it, who are reading it. And so it therefore uses that to determine who else to show the book to, sometimes completely unprompted, i.e., you don't even have to run ads for it. But the key is that you're getting consistent reviews. You're not getting 20 in one day and then none for 3 months and then 20 and then none. So you want it to be a consistent thing. And then the other thing that Amazon is looking for is consistent sales. So consistent sales, consistent reviews, those are important for Amazon in terms of helping you help them help your ideal reader find you. And then having the review is helpful for you as the author, because when someone's trying to make a decision and they've never heard of you, if they've heard of you and someone says, go buy this book, I don't even look at the reviews. I just go buy it because the review, the endorsement has come from someone I trust. But based on what I was doing this morning as a perfect example, I had never heard of any of these authors. I did not, truly, I did not. And interestingly, the one book I did buy not only had 21,000 reviews, but it had, I bought one with 21,000 reviews, didn't even look any further than that. It also was a New York Times bestseller. But then the second one that I looked at only had, I think it had about 28 reviews, which you could argue was a little bit lower because it was a book that was published in 2021. But what I noticed was that the foreword was written by a doctor whose name I know and trust. Like, I don't know of this doctor well. I haven't followed him extensively, but I know other people in the same space who rely on him and his expertise and do follow him. So the fact that he wrote the foreword sort of negated the low review content for me, and that went into the cart. There are all these different things that come into play. All right. So what happens is authors go, well, how do I get these? Because I don't want to be a nag and I don't want to be sleazy and I don't want to bug people. And also I've heard that there are all these rules around reviews, and everything I've just said is true. As far as how to get them, I mean, there are a lot of different ways that you can go about it. But what I wanted to do for this episode is actually crowdsource from other authors. Okay, how do you handle it? Like, what is your approach? My approach, I'll tell you right up front, and the authors with whom I work, this is what I tell them is ask, 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 and then ask again. We are all busy, and I can almost guarantee you that if someone calls you right now and says, hey, can you go leave a review for my product? You're going to say, absolutely, I will. And you will not get it done today because something else will happen, or you'll think, oh God, I got to think about what I want to say. And by the way, people don't need to do that as much as they think. And it's sort of our job as authors to remind them, you just say it was a great read. Just because the number of times that people actually, like those 21,000 reviews, I didn't go down and read any of them. I just saw that it was an average 4.5 star with 21,000. I'm imagining it's a pretty good book. And the majority of the people who read it liked it. So we ask again. And we don't only ask, but we make it absolutely as easy as possible for people to go and do it. So I want to share some of the responses that I got from authors as to what their approach is. Okay, so first, one of my favorite people on the planet, Anne Garvin, who's written most recently Bummer Camp. I swear everyone needs this book in their arsenal right now, but we all just need a lot of Anne Garvin, Anne herself and all of her books, because they just will make you happy. So if you don't have an Anne Garvin book, go get one. And if you already have read several, just go get another one because it'll bring you joy. So Anne's solution to this is she has little stickers that say, please consider reviewing if you liked the book. Otherwise, I try to look very intensely hopeful. So that's just Anne. If you know Anne, you know that's her humor. And we're all looking very intensely hopeful. But people don't think about it unless we tell them. So putting a sticker on the front of your book, if you have that option. If you're doing print on demand, you probably don't have that option. But if you're handing your book out at events, you could certainly put a sticker on the front or on the inside or put them on your bookmark. I did get another response from an author. I'm scrolling. Okay. Yeah. Donna Norman Carbone, who's written Of Lies and Honey and All That Is Sacred. She has a request printed on all of her bookmarks, which is just smart. And then lots of times, if you want to, you can even have a QR code on that bookmark that takes them right to the listing on Amazon or the review page specifically. Because sometimes people get to that listing and they're like, where do I go to write a review? It feels really intuitive for some people, but if you're not a frequent user of Amazon or you're not like great with technology, it can be a little bit more confusing. So this one I got from JR, who works with self-published authors. His handle on Instagram is publish_yourself. And I completely agree with him. He says, whenever someone expresses excitement about reading your book, kindly ask them to leave a review. Make it as easy as you can for them. Literally write down their words and email it to them with a link directly to the Amazon review page for your book. People want to leave reviews, but nobody wants to write reviews, even with ChatGPT. I'm adding that in. JR didn't say that. Use their words and put it in writing for them. It's no different from, and blurbs is going to be another topic we're going to discuss a different day because the thinking on that has changed a little bit, but When I work with authors who are wanting to seek out blurbs, especially from extremely busy individuals, one of my biggest tips is write the blurb for them or write 15 blurbs and say, would any of these work? Are you willing to attach your name to any of these? Because 9 times out of 10, they'll say, I'll take number 7. And then you take 7 off the list, you attach their name, and now you've got your blurb and you're good to go. One thing I've done, similar to what JR just said, is I did this. I think it was my cousin, but I said, hey, have you reviewed? I think it was Write the Damn Book already, but have you reviewed it yet? Because she kept telling me she was going to, and then life took over. She's got 2 young kids and the whole thing. So one time she was visiting and I said, have you done this yet? And she said, I'm so sorry. I said, can you just give me your phone? So I took her phone, I pulled up Amazon, I wrote the review, and then I gave it to her and I said, how do you feel about this? I mean, the review was very brief. It said something like it was stuff I knew she had said to me, but it was also very generic, like a great resource for people who are looking to write nonfiction or memoir. I don't know. I just showed it to her. She said, let me zhuzh it. I don't know if zhuzh was her word, but she added a couple things to it, hit submit, and off we went. Like sometimes it's just taking the work off of people's shoulders. And you understand this because how many times have you thought, okay, I have this little thing to do today, but I'm just not going to do it. And you put it off and you put it off and you put it off. And then once you actually do it, you're like, why the hell did that take so long? It literally took 42 seconds. Joanna Rakoff, who I also completely adore and who wrote My Salinger Year and several others, she's such a delight. I loved her answer. She said, don't look at Amazon reviews or any reviews or think about them or talk about them or look at Amazon reviews of other books. That's my only tip. I've never read a review of my books. And I remember when I had her on this podcast and she told me that, and I thought, that is really smart. I then replied to her and said, well, also, Joanna, you have a lot of reviews. So I understand not reading them, and that's a different topic. Like getting them versus reading them are 2 different things. But do you just let them come in organically? Or like, do you do anything to encourage people to leave reviews? Or are you at that point where you kind of don't have to because your books are so heavily consumed? I mean, as are, by the way, Anne Garvin's. Like Anne Garvin has, 25,000 or something reviews on her most recent book. But the point is she's still asking. Anne is. Now, I haven't heard back from Joanna yet, so stay tuned on that. I also heard from Rhiannon Rollness, who on Instagram is Riri_reads and writes. Riri is RHI. If you just search that, you'll be able to find it. I think it's her first novel, but nevertheless, it's called Black and Blue Widow, and it is now out. She said, when it comes to ARCs, I made sure to follow up via email on release day and a week after. I included the Amazon link in my email. I still don't have a huge number of them. The book is Black and Blue Widow, but I got the biggest bumps the day I sent the emails. And that is kind of similar to how if you have a product that you're selling and it's on a sale, you'll get the most sales oftentimes on that last day because people just wait. Like they don't take immediate action on things. So this just goes to show, Rhiannon's comment just goes to show you have to ask. And that is part of the templates I have in From Manuscript to Market. It's like, what do you send people? How do you ask this? Sarah Gormley, who wrote such a fun memoir, guys, called The Order of Things. She loves pizza and hates bullshit. And if that's not a reason to follow her, I just don't know what is. She is at SC Gormley. I'll just tag all these in the show notes so you can go find everybody. She just said, ask for them. Not very creative, I know, but she's actually correct. I said, do you have success doing it via email, linking them directly to the review page, text, what's your poison? And she said, I do all of those, but find that in person with an explanation of how much they matter works best. And then only like 15 to 20% take the time to do so. People are intimidated, I think. I agree with that. The intimidation, it's like people are... I don't know. They feel like they're writing something that everyone's going to read and judge them on. So they'll say like, I got to get it written correctly. And I'm like, you don't have to write anything. You can just go click, hopefully 5 stars and be done with it. You don't actually have to write a commentary. And also you could just say, loved every minute, couldn't put it down, and you're good to go. But I think a lot of people don't realize how much it helps authors. And so if someone is close to you and wants to see you succeed, and then they understand how important it is, they're oftentimes more likely to take 37 seconds, if that, to do it. I also heard from Jennifer Bellingrote, who is the author of Fix Your Freaking Marriage, Practical Tips to Just Start Somewhere. And she said she reaches out to individual buyers and asks them to leave a review. She also requests review on Facebook and through her weekly email newsletter sometimes. So there's only one thing there's one thing I want to say about this. So asking in your email is great, and yet another reason to have an email. And somebody else I feel like posted about posting on social media, NL Blandford. She is a crime fighter by day and a thriller author by night. So that's exciting. And I'm going to need to have her on this podcast. She said she has a similar process to Rhiannon. As her backlist grows, she's thinking of requesting ARC readers or a street team to provide a link to one or two reviews they've left on past books in the sign-up form. This shows they are engaged and hopefully keep the engagement going. So her first book in a 3-book series is called The Perilous Road to Her. Again, I will link all this below. The thing about asking for reviews on social media and where it can get a little bit dicey is that technically, that's against Amazon's terms. You cannot ask for a review, nor can you compensate someone in any way for leaving a review with anything other than a complimentary copy of the book. So you cannot enter them into a giveaway if they leave a review. You cannot give them a $5 gift card to Starbucks. I mean, you can do it, I guess, like without saying that you're doing it, but you can't post. If you post out on social media, hey, I'm looking for 100 people to leave a review. If you do, I'll enter you in this giveaway. Or if you do, I'll send you a $5 gift card. That's not good. And while people get away with it on occasion, and I put get away with it in quotes, it's questionable how much they get away with it, because anecdotally, i.e. allegedly, when Amazon's system, it's not a person, but when the system sees those things, they then are able to decipher who's following you on that social media platform. And if and when that person logs into Amazon with the same email address that they use to log into the social platform and they leave a review of your book, Amazon discounts it, because they are already looking, as they do, by the way, if they can tie someone to you as a friend or a family member through social media. They consider that to be a biased review. It's completely crazy, because wouldn't our friends and family, specifically our friends, and specifically our friends, air quote, on social media, wouldn't they? Of course they'd leave a review of your book, of your product, of your service, of your anything. But the key with Amazon is that you can't say, please leave a 5-star review. You cannot lead the reviewer in any way, shape, or form. You have to, or you're supposed to, ask them to just leave an honest review, and you're not supposed to ask them directly. You're not supposed to solicit the review. And furthermore, you are not allowed to compensate a reviewer in any way beyond a complimentary copy of the book, which ostensibly you're giving them so that they can leave an honest review. So we can go way deep down the rabbit hole of what works, what doesn't work, what's likely to be discarded, etc. A lot of it, there's no method to the madness, but the end result is that getting Amazon reviews continues to be, whenever you ask an author about Amazon reviews, more often than not, they're like, oh my God. It's just something that is uncomfortable. It feels labor intensive, icky. It's same thing people feel when they're like, hey, you want to buy my book? It just doesn't feel great. So try to find ways to make it feel comfortable, to sort of normalize it. And truly, one of the best things, and I tell the authors with whom I work this, whenever anyone messages you on social media, like in a DM, or they send you an email and they say, I just got your book, I loved it, or I just got this book for my sister, she loved it, thank you so much for writing it. When you reply to them, make sure to not just say, thank you so much, you just made my day. Also, get in the habit of saying, if you wouldn't mind taking less than a minute to leave a quick review on Amazon, they help so much. And then putting a link. So they don't have to search for it. They don't have to do anything. They just click that link, leave the review, and they're out. And you can even say, you don't have to leave a worded words. You can just leave a star ranking, but I'd be so appreciative. I swear 8 times out of 10 people do that. One of my authors with whom I work, Joanna Hardis, her book, Just Do Nothing, A Paradoxical Guide to Getting Out of Your Way, came out about a year and a half ago, and she was sitting at 8 reviews for the longest time. I think it was 8, it might have been 12. And she was like, Elizabeth, we got to do something. And I said, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. You're just going to start asking. We're literally going to take one step at a time. And within, I think, 2 weeks, she was up to maybe 28, 29 reviews. And she's now sitting at, I think the last time I checked, 51. So there is a tipping point where they start to kind of just come in themselves. But we have to do some work usually to get them to that point. And so I wanted to put that encouragement out of some different ways that you can do it, from asking directly to sending emails, putting QR codes on bookmarks, putting stickers on your book, putting a little blurb on your website even saying, hey, if you've read it, would love it if you could click here real quick and leave a review. I understand that's soliciting a review, but it's not doing it out on social media. And then also take comfort in the fact that you actually want to space them out. Because if you get 20 in a day, first of all, it raises a red flag for the Amazon system because they're like, why, does she have someone coming into her house and she's just got the iPad open and is just telling it? This is something people were doing for a while. They were just gaming the system. And so they'd have a book launch party, and they'd have 100 people show up. And as you walked in the door, you had to click 5 stars. And what was happening was a lot of those people hadn't even read the book. So there are all these different things that Amazon does in the background to try to determine, is this a valid review? And it's good. That's great that we have those practices. It's also gone a little heavy, in my opinion, into an area where it discounts a lot of reviews that it should not. But don't be afraid to just ask. And remember that everyone who has 50, 100, 10,000 reviews got their one review at a time. And in all likelihood, that book's been out a while. They come in slowly. And that's what you want, because that helps Amazon continue to say, oh, this book is not only being purchased, but it's being liked. And then it can look at the people who are purchasing it and liking it and find similar people to suggest the book to. It's all this kind of stuff that goes on in the background on Amazon that we as authors very much want to understand in order to take advantage of, so that we can help Amazon help us grow our readership. So if you have any additional questions about that, please don't hesitate to let me know. Again, I will link all the Instagram handles and the authors whose suggestions I've included in the episode notes. I'll also put a link to From Manuscript to Market if you're looking for a program that will help you make sure you've got a solid foundation to usher your book into the world, or re-usher your book into the world, in a way that it puts processes in place that you can then build upon, as opposed to feeling like you're starting over each and every time you either relaunch a current book or launch a new book. And now I'm going to go plant my potatoes in my new potato grower bags. I will talk to you again next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, this is your friendly reminder to follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share it with someone you know has a great story or message, but isn't sure what to do next. Also, remember to check out publishaprofitablebook.com for book writing resources and tips, and to see all the ways we can work together to get your book out into the world. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk with you again soon. Is starting a podcast on your wish list or your to-do list? If so, check out my podcast starter pack. It's 35% off right now with code PODCAST35. This straightforward, no-fluff guide enables you to start your author podcast in just a few days by providing you with everything you need to get that podcast launched without overwhelm or overthinking. This mini course covers effective episode planning strategies for newbies and experienced interviewers alike, exactly what recording equipment you need. You'll get the links to all of the equipment I use, surefire and slightly unorthodox tips for finding and approaching potential guests, 5 creative ways to keep your podcast interesting, my simple podcast editing tips, no outsourcing required, and creative ways to monetize your podcast even when you have an audience of 3. You'll also get my podcast intro and outro templates, email templates for guests, show notes templates, customizable show graphics, and my printable podcast planner. Again, the code for 35% off is podcast35. Visit publishaprofitablebook.com/podcast101 to get started. Link is also in the episode notes. And now back to the episode.